Yes, it's very safe. And the most important thing when buying property in Mexico is that, number one, I always advise that any buyer conduct a due diligence over the property that you're buying. Which that means is that prior to you committing yourself as a buyer, then you need to verify that the property is free and clear from any liens, encumbrances, that the seller is a rightful owner, that the property is up to date with taxes and any other additional payments such as water and sewage, electricity, homeowners association fees, and so on. So once you verify that everything is in order, you will enter into a private promissory to purchase and sell agreement. That document will legally bind both buyer and seller. And that document will actually be the basis of your real estate transaction. That document in particular will contain basic information: who's the buyer, who's the seller, the legal description of the property, what is the purchase price, the form of payment in the event that there are multiple, there's a schedule of payments, what is the jurisdiction, what are the penalty clauses in the event of any default from buyer and seller. In addition, once that document is reviewed, executed by all the parties, then that document will mature into a final document, which is the deed. And the deed in particular will contain the purchase and sale agreement or trust agreement through which foreigners acquire. And that document will be the title that the buyer will receive at the end of the transaction. So it's safe to buy in Mexico? The answer is yes. However, it is a lot of common sense. Before commit yourself, verify that everything is legally in order. I consider that there are no risks in buying in Mexico. However, when you enter into a purchase and sale agreement for a property that is in a pre-construction phase, I always advise customers that any advance in payment towards the purchase price, if there's a payment schedule, that all the payments be done in accordance with in advancing construction. So this way, as a buyer, you will be fully aware that your property or the amounts that you're paying to the developer will be destined to build the product that you're building. So for example, it's always recommended you have a purchase and sale agreement that will outline the payments and when those payments are due. We always recommend customers in a pre-construction phase that probably at the execution of the purchase and sale agreement, you give a down payment. At the moment that the foundations are completed, another advance payment. When the first floor is built, another one. When the keys of the property are given to you, meaning everything is fully finished, then another amount. And a smaller amount when you receive physical title. However, if the property is literally 1 or 2 months away from being completed, then what I would suggest is that the funds be held in escrow and that we do not give the developer any amount of payment until the actual physical possession and transfer of title are formalized. Because during the physical possession, you have to do an inspection and verify that everything is running. The electricity, you can turn it off, the toilets flush, that there's no cracks, that the windows are okay, among others. So I consider, to answer your question, it is not risky, but it is very important that any purchase and sale agreement drafted be very clear regarding the terms and conditions, obligations assumed by both parties. You can expect multiple closing costs. Usually they're divided in multiple sections because we have to engage multiple service providers. For example, when closing a real estate transaction in Mexico, you need to engage the notary public, which, by the way, has a completely different role from the one in other countries like in Canada or in the US, where the role of the notary public is only to witness the execution of a document. However, here the notary public, they are attorneys, they're an appointed official of the government, And part of their obligations is to grant public faith to the legal act that is being formalized, collect taxes on behalf of the government, and pay them on behalf of both buyer and seller. So you've got notary fees. As well, to formalize a transaction, we need to obtain multiple documents. For example, a commercial appraisal, government certifications that will show that the property to be transferred is free and clear from any liens, that the property is up to date with water and sewage, with property taxes, among others. So you got notary fees, municipal documents, commercial appraisal. If you're a foreigner, you have to engage a trustee bank because foreigners need to acquire through a trust granted before a Mexican institution. So you've got notary fees, trustee bank fees, permits from Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well, and your attorney fees, which in Stewart it would be closing, legal guidance and support, escrow and or title insurance. So the fees, yes, they are a little bit different from the one in the US and in Canada. They're a little bit higher, but you have to take into consideration that the legal structure, for example, in comparison with the US, it's completely different. So you can expect more closing costs. However, at the end of the day, once you buy property, your obligations from that moment on will be others. That, for example, property taxes in Mexico are quite low. So, for example, to give you a rough idea, a property that is worth $250,000, you might be paying property taxes on a yearly basis around $800. So it is very low. So at the end, the high closing cost that you pay up front will be amortized during the time that you're the owner.